I slept and dreamt, life was a joy. I awoke and saw, life was a service. I acted and behold, life was service. Life becomes harder when we live for others, but becomes happier and joyful when we really live it. Beautiful words of Albert Schweitzer, a great missionary and a humanitarian. All the readings today that we listened to on this Sunday talking about servant leadership. St. Paul in his writings talking about, I am a servant of Jesus Christ. Servant of servants, that is what we call the popes, down through the centuries. Servant of servants. And Mother Teresa, who lived in our times, always known to be a servant of the poor and the lepers in the streets of Calcutta. What beautiful images that we have from the past to the present to connect those who lived this great value of leadership in service till today. Scriptures describe servant leadership as a criteria of discipleship today. The first reading that we have, the high priest who himself sacrifices for the others, laying down his own life. And when we come to the second reading, servant who is suffering for the sin of the others, the master who becomes a servant and suffers for the other. The way to salvation is through the sacrifice and suffering of the master himself. Can we imagine that when in today's society that? When I was trying to do some kind of reading on this servant leadership, it was an introduced research program in many universities to advance much and change this ideology of leadership from a bossy and demanding, commanding kind of person to a service-oriented person. And any companies, any institutions, any organization who applied this service-mindedness into their hierarchy got to be very much improving and making a lot of profit. That brings in a lot of humanity, human resources, and fulfillment of the mission that they were trying to do. The question raised by the mother of the Zebedee's sons was a career advancement or a promotional question, that where my sons would be sitting. And Jesus answers this question, connecting to the sacrifice and the doubtful tomorrow, what they would become. Nothing is known. So my dear friends, when we are called into the service of Christ, that's a real call of Jesus to answer, to liberate the humanity from their burdens. The slavery that is mandated by Jesus is for the liberation and joy of a lot of people. Just remember the birth of Jesus, becoming a lawless, a soft and simple child, a baby infant Jesus in a manger in Bethlehem. What is the plan of God for us? Through which, what is actually God telling to the world? In a few months of time, we celebrate the greatest feast of the birth of Jesus. This talks a lot to us, to the humanity. For the Middle Eastern Christians, according to the custom, who sits at the main right and left of the boss or in charge was a great place of honor, because they were always considered to be great in the community of the society. That was how they were honoring the people. At times in the conventional attitude of people, still there are expectations. But the younger generation today are not much worried about that one. Actually, what is Jesus talking about is where you sit on the right or the left. But more than that one, how is your heartful attitude towards power, towards position, towards what you are in the society? The corona pandemic time that is still there around us made us change and brought us a lot of challenges. It is a time that changed the entire concept of our thinking patterns. And anything is new to us, we are hardly accepting them. The reality is the celebrations our mindset have changed a lot. And in these times, how do we look at this concept, this idea that Jesus is talking in the gospel today? Great theologian Richard Rohr, talking in one of his concepts about the ideology of hierarchies, and he talks about this order, disorder, and reorder. I think literally taking these terms, I can just say that Jesus is changing the order of leadership, and he is bringing a disorder to make a reorder of values. And in Jesus, we see new values after reordering, starting from his birth till his death. His order and the values were different. And are we ready to accept him as he is, with all the values that Jesus is bringing to our life? The great Indian poet and Nobel Prize winner, who wrote the national anthem for many countries, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, in one of his poems, talks about service-mindedness. He says, "I slept and dreamt, life was a joy. I awoke and saw, life was a service. I acted and behold, life was service." My dear friends, as we reflect on this service leadership of Jesus today in the gospel, let us find joy in serving Christ in others, because there we find Christ himself. God bless you all. Have a beautiful, graceful Sunday.